Hi everyone, I'm Tom.
And I'm Tom.
And you're watching
or listening to
With the Toms podcast.
Across the series, we'll be delving into the world of learning. Stuff like psychology behind how people learn, how to engage with learners, and what makes good content.
Because we all know not all content is made equal.
Okay, let's get started.
Another edition of With the Toms podcast. In this particular session, we'll be talking about the learning of psychology, but as you probably can see, we've got a guest with us this time round, so it's not just Tom and Tom. So I'd like to introduce Jo Howarth from the Happiness Club. Well, maybe just say a little bit about yourself, Jo, as a way of introduction.
I would love to. My name's Jo Howarth. I run a company called the Happiness Club, and I teach people how to be happy. So I do that in a wide variety of ways, but mainly through my online membership club, which is the Happiness Club. So I'm a psychologist, a mindfulness practitioner, and an advanced hypnotherapist by trade. So I use a mix of all of that.
Fantastic, that's brilliant. That's why I wanted to get Jo on to this particular episode, actually, because we just thought it was something that was really connected to what we do and how we do it, and this idea of having fun, being happy about what you're doing. And so right throughout this session, we're going to kind of get Jo engaged, have a conversation with her about this particular topic. So before we delve into that, I suppose I just thought we'd link this back to, I guess, what we're doing right now. So when we think about the learning, sort of psychology of learning, there's kind of three biases, and I'll sort of explore these with you, Tom, and then we'll hook Jo in. So we talk a lot about this idea of the Bizarreness Effect. So this idea that if something jumps out at you, it sticks. This idea that if there's an octopus in Cowboy but it's dancing on a hot tin roof, that's going to make you watch something more than if it's just grey and dull. And I guess there's plenty of examples of that in our content, isn't there, Tom?
Yes, each of our courses is themed for a start. We did one recently which featured a character called the Lone Ranger, which was a metaphor for a lone worker. So we follow basically a cowboy character who's accompanied by Tonto.
Cactus Pete.
Who was given to him by Cactus Pete, because obviously the Lone Ranger working on his own lonesome in a desert, it's probably quite hazardous. All those rattlesnakes and things. So yes, Cactus Pete sort of delivered him this character, and it follows a theme, but it carries it really, really well. It's very, very good. We even introduced satellites halfway through it, which is completely out of context. But yes, that's
the point, isn't it? It's that Bizarreness Effect. So then we've also got this idea of the Humour Effect. So proper dad joke here, but a fly flies into a windscreen. What's the first thing that goes through its mind? It's arse. Yeah, exactly. So proper dad joke, love that one. I'm sure we can get away with that, can't we? But again, it's the idea, and I think this will be a big thing from Jo probably in the next couple of minutes, with this idea that you have fun, be happy about what you're doing, and equally, for us, learning shouldn't just be fun; it has to be fun to make it properly engaging. And then I think the last bit, this really plays into kind of the way that you direct what we do, Tom, is this picture superiority effect, which sounds grand, but it's this idea that really, when we come to sort of learn that visuals, you take them in, and actually this idea that the brain processes visuals a lot faster than it would words, and that's really about what we do when we make content, isn't it?
I think so, and I think the way people have learned from classroom to where we do it now, it hasn't. We say that we process images faster than we do text, and we take it in a lot quicker anyway. So that's why we use animation. We use animation for myriad factors, but it's controllable. But yes, because we can storytell and do it basically animated picture books. And you ask any grown mature person, they still like to learn by reading through pictures. It's easier to absorb as well. Yeah,
brilliant, great. So that's some of the stuff that I guess we're thinking about. But I mean, Jo, I know when we've chatted before, I think a big part of what you sort of focus in on, I think, is around happiness, and actually what stops people sort of doing what they want to do, and maybe the sort of things that makes people more likely to achieve and succeed. So maybe you can tell us.
Absolutely. Well, I find your idea of animation and pictures really interesting, because the reason that works is because your subconscious mind, which is by far the bigger part of your mind, thinks in pictures. Right. It doesn't think in words. It's about 95% of your mind. Your conscious mind is only about 5% of you. And your subconscious mind thinks in pictures. Plus, age-wise, your subconscious mind is 6 years old. So when you're talking about storytelling, that's exactly what you're tapping into. You're tapping into that small child that's still inside every single one of us, that sees the big pictures and has a huge imagination and that's how it processes information. So that's why visuals and images and animations are so awesome for learning, because your subconscious just gets it, and it works about 1 billion times faster. That might be a slight exaggeration. than your conscious mind. So again, we process that quicker. So that's why all of that clicks in.
Yes.
And we have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious mind, and we have something that sits in between the two, which is called your critical factor. Okay, and it's kind of, the way I describe him is kind of like a bouncer in a nightclub. Okay, he has a list of rules and regulations by which he lets things into the subconscious. So you have a subconscious blueprint that stores all your beliefs about life, the universe, and everything. Okay, about you as a person, about the world around you, and about how that world works. And they're beliefs that you've picked up from being a small child that largely aren't yours. They're the grown-ups that were around you when you were a small child. They belong to them, and you've taken them on, learnt them. And then we go through life regurgitating those patterns and those beliefs. And the critical factor really is there like the bouncer. So if you make a statement on a conscious level about being happy, I'll just use happiness because that's the name of my company, so if you say I am happy, that statement gets passed through the critical factor, who will check it against the list of beliefs in that blueprint. And if there's a belief in there that contradicts that statement, he won't let it in exactly the same way as a bouncer in the nightclub wouldn't let me in if his rules say no jeans, and I turn up wearing jeans, I'm not getting into the club. So, and because the subconscious mind is such a massive part of us, if there's a belief on a subconscious level and a thought on a conscious level, largely the belief on the subconscious level is going to win out. Which is why you can find yourself, you absolutely know in here what you want to do, what you want to say, how you want to be, how you want to behave, where you want to go, and then you do or say the complete opposite. Because your subconscious mind believes something completely different.
It's interesting. And I think I was just thinking back to the bit then you were saying about the child inside us, and I think so. We did an exhibition recently, and we created a whole brochure, and the whole brochure was actually like a storybook. And we actually kind of went back to that, didn't we? Because we said, really, it feels like us that sometimes when we talk about learning or even just doing things, people feel like they make it too complicated, and it almost kind of becomes very adult orientated. And actually, we just said, we went back and just said, let's just be like kids. Think about how, so I've got, young children, know you do, and they just love to sit down with a picture book and read it, and that's how they learn. And we said, actually, maybe if we approach that same kind of way and, make it that simple, then it seems to be far more effective. And I think that's kind of what you're saying then, really.
Absolutely, it is. And I run workshops in schools, and I run workshops in businesses, and I teach the same kind of techniques in both workshops, because they're not age specific, they're people specific. And I used to teach them, when I first started out, I used to teach them in completely different ways. I used to be very grown up in a corporate workshop, and then in a school I would muck about and play.
Be more fun.
And then I realised that I wasn't getting anywhere near the engagement in my grown-up workshops. I use that term loosely, as I was in the children workshops. And so I just thought, right, okay, I'll just do the hot. So now I teach my corporate workshops in exactly the same way as I teach the school ones. I get way more engagement.
I bet.
People remember the techniques, they use them all the time, because they just stick in there. Absolutely. So I guess, in reverse, I guess we chatted there quite a bit about, maybe what makes people tick and what kind of gets, what's the sort of things that are blockers then, Jo, that sort of stops you doing things or perhaps even learning about something? Okay, so really, in my opinion, the only thing that blocks you are those beliefs that you've got stored in your subconscious mind. Most of the beliefs that are in there by the time you're 6 or 7 years old. Not all of them, but most of them are. And your subconscious mind, bless it, is incredibly lazy. So it just carries on believing the same thing. And it finds you situations in which that belief becomes confirmed.
Yeah.
So we don't believe we deserve that. Okay, so let's find. So we've proved that again. Tick it off. And you go through life repeating the same patterns over and over and over again, sometimes without even realising that you're doing it.
Yeah.
And as I said before, the beliefs that are in there are ones that you've picked up from the grown-ups that are around you when you're little, and then you carry on believing them ad infinitum, potentially, unless you choose to do something about changing them. But most people walk through life without the awareness that they can do that. And so it is a simple case of, consciously you can think something. I want to do this, I want to learn about this, I want to break out of this pattern and do that. But if the belief is still there, it's incredibly hard. So it really is just a question of changing the beliefs on a subconscious level, and you'll free yourself up to move forward.
I just wonder, because a lot of what we do, Tom, isn't it, when we're creating content, is we're trying to. I guess you always say that every bit of training or course that you're creating is about delivering a change, and I guess a big piece of what we try to do is behavioural change. And I just wonder if that's why sometimes behavioural change and changing cultures of that is so hard, because of what you just described there. I mean,
yeah, I agree with you. I come from a sort of a background from creative problem solving, so it sort of resonates with what you're saying, which is when we produce these pieces of learning, we're sort of, I suppose, working out the best way to curate and what's the best way to sort of get that message across. And I think a lot of people are a lot of unsuccessful creative people are constrained by, like you say, what's in that filing cabinet. They only can refer to what they already know. Whereas when we tend to produce a product or a concept, we do it through a sort of, I call it the superhero effect. So whenever I produce something or I write something, I think like a superhero would think. So I'm instantly low. I don't tend to create with boundaries. I get it down. I think, well, if I want to achieve an objective, if I was Superman or whatever, how would I do that? Well, I can do it however I bloody like, can't I? Because, I'm not bound by what I think I know, or what I've learned in the past. And then maybe Tom will rein me in or whatever. Yeah. But generally, what we do is we come out with this super product, which is sort of almost created in the mind of a child, because I think like a child. Yeah. And it's without boundaries. So it's almost like it's been curated in a very disruptive, very different way. And I think you really have to sort of see our courses to sort of really understand what we're talking about. But it is like that. So the problem solving, the creative process has gone through this problem solving process, which is, it's just, it's not constrained with the typical thought processes of how you would normally create a course or a product. Brainstorming, I know it's a bit of a buzzword, but it's how we do it. Yeah.
But that's for me. I mean, my husband is a creative. He's a designer, and creative people need that space and time, and you need to kind of be able to float around a bit, don't you? Do you know what I mean?
You do, yeah.
And that for me, that's pure. That's you going back into your pure subconscious land of being that 4-year-old or 5-year-old, and allowing that process to happen naturally, instead of allowing the critical factor and the conscious mind that are very grown up and sensible to stop that flow.
Yeah, and it's you probably know that if you associate with people, how sometimes it's a blessing, also can be a curse, can't it? Because sometimes you think, have I got the audacity and am I brave enough or courageous enough to do this and actually create a script which is a little bit out there?
Yep.
And I'll say to Tom, I don't know, I've written this, it's a little bit,
is it too far out?
Is it too far out? And you always need this sort of temperature gauge to come back and go, well, actually, maybe a little bit, but it is so different. And the learning conventions that we're sort of publishing are sort of resonating with people in such a sort of positive way, because they've never seen it like this. Yeah. Well, they have. They were reading it by Alex Schiffer when they were sort of younger, or Edith Blyton or something. Just that you're right, we grew up, didn't we?
Yeah.
Just the difference between me is I'm just like, I'm basically a child with a laptop, I
think that's the thing, is that you sort of feel that you got to somehow, as you get older, conform to these norms maybe that says that this is how it should be, and we were trying to say no, it doesn't have to be like that.
Well, we convince ourselves it's impossible as well, because it's not within the normal confines. It's the story of Henry Ford, isn't it? Wanting his, I'm not a mechanic by any stretch of the imagination, but he wanted his engine a certain way, and all his engineers said, no, it's impossible, it can't be done. Yeah. Absolutely could be done, they just didn't think it could be done. And that's that old, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I think as well, sort of passing that approach and those techniques to the team as well, getting them involved and getting them to produce scripts that are similar, sort of with a similar ethos and ideology. So they're all under a sort of quite a wacky creative director, really.
But I think that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes, I mean, I always say that sometimes what we do, it can be a little bit like Marmite in that people either love it or they don't. And I suppose there is that element, isn't it, that some people just, it's not quite how they've built and it just doesn't fit. But we continue to approach it, don't we, in this way, and think about these different things and just try and be that kind of bit bizarre humour, to sort of to be different.
Yeah, and humour works because it's really anything that makes you pay attention, makes you take notice. And that's the essence of mindfulness. Mindfulness is all about coming off that autopilot, coming off the automatic, and paying attention, proper attention. So anything that makes you sit up and go, oh, that's not what I was expecting, or oh, that's different.
Yes.
It goes in there deeper because you register it more. So that's why that works, the humour effect.
Absolutely.
But I mean, that's what we try to immerse people in the courses. So they're more grounded with it.
Yeah, I mean, it can work in so many different ways, isn't it? Because I think humour as well, it's one of those things that it can break the kind of again, I think we often start with a piece of humour, don't we? You see it in what we do because it's just, it breaks the mood a little bit as well, and people go, okay, actually, I'm going to have to watch a course on something like asbestos or something that's very dry, and your immediate reaction is, oh no, I'm going to have to watch this for 10 minutes, but actually you realise, okay, it's got humour in it, and we're always respectful to materials. Some of these things are very serious topics, but doesn't mean you can't still be fun.
Absolutely, and like you say, they're coming into it with preconceived expectation
very much so.
of training.
Boring.
Because that's what most people's perception of training
without doubt
has become. So again, instantly you start with humour, you're going against what they were expecting. So they start paying attention.
Brilliant. Great. Okay. Well, no, I'm conscious. We I don't know if there's anything else we want to talk about. Anything else you wanted to cover, Jo, in terms of our podcast? I mean, is there anything else we wanted, Tom?
We could
be, couldn't we, Jo? Anything else in your brain there?
I think you lot have got it completely sewn up. I think that's what you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I certainly was going to say, as we sort of round out this podcast, I mean, if anyone wants to find out more about what you do, Jo, at the Happiness Club, where can they find out more to find out about you?
The best place is my website, thehappinessclub.co.uk.
Great, brilliant. So obviously it's been fantastic to have you on here, Jo. Really kind of in tune with what we're about, and I think that's the thing. It's about being fun, happiness. So check Jo's website out if you haven't, and equally look out for our trailers, look out for everything about I Am Learning and our library. Follow us on social media if you haven't. Otherwise, it's good night from him.
It's good night from him.
Lovely. Thanks very much. Cheers for now.